Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of PTCGRadio. So today, we're going to be taking a look at Guzzlord, the new Guzzlord, the one that I said I thought had a huge amount of potential. Yeah, it's gonna won a tournament on the very first day it's legal over in Japan. Maybe it's time we started taking Guzzlord rather seriously. Now, it's got 150 HP as a basic, which is nice. And it's got a first attack that lets you discard the top card of your opponent's deck. I should say, I don't always remember to say it, which is very bad of me. Huge shout out to the lovely Code64X over on Twitter, who does hook me up with a bunch of these deck lists. He is awesome, and I love him. So the first attack, discard the top card of your opponent's deck, nobody really cares. But the main attack here, 4 energy, 120 damage. But if you take a KO using this attack, you take an extra prize card. So something like a Jirachi, which sees a redonk amount of play, yeah, now it gives up 2 prizes. Zapdos, Blacephalon, Volcanion, pretty much any pre-evolution. I'm going to stop listing Pokemon with 120 HP or less now, but you get the point. There are many of them, ladies and gentlemen. There are many of them. And that's pretty gosh darned awesome. So the goal here, very simply, is try and make sure we can take enough KOs, try and make sure we got enough energy on there, and then win the game by just rushing our opponent for prizes. I mean, look, against some decks here, you're going to be taking 2 prizes a turn, they're going to be taking 1 prize a turn, and they're just not going to be able to keep up. And essentially here, even when you're not one-hit KOing, you should be pretty much 2-hit KOing everything. So the goal here is just swarm Guzzlord. Now there are a bunch of other cards, other Pokemon we need to play here, chief among them Naganadel and Weavile. Naganadel accelerates energy to itself once per turn, Weavile lets you move all your darkness energy around the field. This is how you get enough energy on Guzzlord. You accelerate it to Naganadel and then move it to Guzzlord using Weavile. We all thought this would probably be how you would have to do it in order to make this viable, but you know, nice to have that confirmation. We also have 1 Ditto Prism Star, which shouldn't surprise you. We got 2 different stage 1 lines, that makes Ditto Prism Star a necessity. We got 1 Tapu Lele just to, well, search your supporters out early or late game. It's just that little consistency boost you need. And a couple copies of Hooper. Now, Hooper will have rotated by the time Guzzlord comes out outside of Japan, but for the time being, it's pretty much a given that you're going to have to play Hooper in most Darkness decks. It just gives you too much of an answer. It means if you come across any deck that's really relying on GX or EX Pokemon, you can sit there and block them. It's kind of cool. Now, the main part of the deck here is still Guzzlord. Everything else is facilitating Guzzlord. Naganadel and Weavile get the energy onto Guzzlord. Hooper buys time for Guzzlord to be at its most effective. Doesn't mean it's always going to work, but it's gone and won a tournament, so it's something we need to take a little bit more seriously. In terms of post-rotation Guzzlord, you are losing Hooper, but that's all you're losing in terms of the Pokemon here. Okay, you're losing Tapu Lele, but we all know you can just whack it to Dene in, and it's not exactly the same, but it's not the biggest loss ever. It's got a natural successor. The biggest deal here is going to be losing Hooper. Hooper does give you those games where you're just like, boom, now you can't do anything, ha 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 ha, gutted. It will win games by itself. Against something like Celebi and Venusaur, for instance, if you just play with Hooper, they basically can't beat you. But there's not that many games they can do that. Hooper also softens up for Guzzlord. But most decks are playing weaker Pokemon. And that's where Guzzlord comes in beautifully. And even if you're having a 2-hit KO, 2-hit KO. Because when you're 2-hit KOing, outside of a few bulkier non-GX exceptions, you're taking 3 prizes off a GX or 4 prizes off a tag team. Yeah, I don't mind 2-hit KOing a Pikachu and Zekrom when I'm getting 4 prizes at the end of it. That's fine by me. Now, in terms of the energy line, you're largely playing a whole bunch of darkness energy here. We do actually have 1 double colorless energy that's basically in there for, well, just in case. It works for Hooper, It works for Guzzlord. You shouldn't need it very often, but it's nice to have there in a pinch. And then 1 Beast Energy, because it does an extra 30 damage. Beast Energy is phenomenal. If you're playing any Ultra Beast deck and you're not playing 1 Beast Energy, I do have to question, what are you doing? Now, there are a couple of specific cards that really are specific to this deck. We got 4 copies of Ultra Space to search out your Ultra Beast. Remember that it's not just Guzzlord, it's also Poipole and Naganadel. This is very much an Ultra Beast deck here. Ultra Space becomes amazing. And then we have a copy of Black Market Prism Star, which is pretty gosh darned important, because if it's a Darkness Pokemon with Darkness Energy attached, you give up 1 fewer prize. Basically, it means your Weavile gives up 1 prize, and your Guzzlord doesn't. It doesn't give up any prizes whatsoever. That's pretty fantastically wonderful here. Now, we do have some other Pokemon search. We've got a couple of Ultra Ball, which search out any Pokemon you like. We've got a couple of Nest Ball that get your basic Pokemon. And we've got a couple copies of Pokemon Communication that let you swap a Pokemon in your hand for a Pokemon in your deck. Bearing in mind, Ultra Space puts an Ultra Beast into your hand. So that's actually amazing with Pokemon Communication. If you really want a Weavile, Ultra Space for any Ultra Beast, and then Pokemon Communication it into a Weavile, that's a fun little thing you can pull off. We have a couple of Choice Bands to do a little bit of extra damage along with your Beast Energy. That's going to be pretty gosh darn good. It means you can actually get up to 180 and be instantly KOing stuff like Blacephalon for free prizes, which is pretty gosh darn sweet. 1 copy of Switch just to get your Pokemon out the active. 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher to recover your Pokemon once they go down. 1 copy of Field Blower to get rid of tools and stadiums. 1 copy of Reset Stamp. Your opponent shuffles their hand into their deck and draws a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. Great if you fall behind. Pretty much a staple in any deck in Japan at the moment, if I'm honest with you. And 1 Viridian Forest to help you search out your basic energy if you're in a bit of a pinch. Now, in terms of supporters, we've got some that are familiar and some that aren't. So we've got a couple copies of Lily, which is quite nice as a draw card. It's one of the best we've got. And a couple copies of Cynthia, which is the other best draw card we've got. And then we've got 2 copies of Guzma, because it swaps your active Pokemon and allows you to swap your opponent's active Pokemon. It's phenomenal. But we've also got a couple of new supporters here, which have just come out in Remix Bout, same as Guzzlord. We've got 2 copies of Professor Oak's Setting. Lets you search your deck for 3 basic Pokemon with different types and put them onto your bench. And just like I told you in my video about Professor Oak's Setting, it's Ditto Prism Star that makes this work. Because you've got Poipole, which is a Psychic Pokemon, a whole bunch of Darkness Pokemon, and then a single copy of Ditto Prism Star. Without Ditto Prism Star, you'd only be able to search for Poipole and a Darkness Basic. As it is, you can search for Poipole, 1 of your Darkness Basics, and a Ditto, and it turns the card from, oh, I can't play it, to that's phenomenal. Yes, there is a lot of Pokemon search in this deck. 2 Ultra Ball, 2 Nest Ball, 2 Pokemon Communication, 4 Ultra Space, and a couple of Professor Oak's Setting for turn 1. But you really need to set up 2 stage 1s and get your basic. This is how you get it set up. And then finally, we got 3 copies of Roller Skater. Brand new supporter card that just came out. I was a little unsure how much play this would see, but I told you it was really good where you want to discard energy. You discard a card from your hand and draw 2 cards. If you discard an energy, you draw 4. Well, this is a Naganadel deck. You really want to discard energy. Incidentally, Viridian Forest will also let you discard that energy. So it's pretty gosh darned awesome in this particular deck. Get the energy in the discard ready to accelerate with your Naganadel, while also drawing 4 cards. Yeah, that's pretty good. Post-rotation, I'm a little worried about this deck. You're losing Hooper, and that's the main thing you're losing, but you're also losing Choice Band. You're only playing 2. It's not the end of the world, but you are losing Choice Band. But anytime you come across a deck where you can either one-hit KO non-GXs or two-hit KO GXs, and that is a lot of decks, ladies and gentlemen, you are on to an absolute winner here. I love this deck. It is one of my favourites that I'm going to be testing post-rotation. I think this could be awesome. But I would very much like to know what you think about it. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.